This is a test. Is my AirPod working? Hello and welcome to my third knitting podcast episode. My name is Teresa. I'm a knitter from the south of Germany, and on this channel I share all about knitting, and since the last month, occasionally, sometimes sewing. Alright, I wanted to film today because I do have an exciting finished object, and the weather here in Germany is very gloomy and rainy and foggy, so not typical for August, but bear with, I got the cozy lighting on and maybe we get the chance of hearing some rain. So I guess let's get cozy, because I am feeling very cozy and it has reflected in my mood. So for the last 3 weeks maybe, I've been a bit down the sewing rabbit hole, but since the weather has turned this gloomy and cold again, I'm all about knitting, which is why I have 2 new WIPs, and like in total I now have 4, and I have 1 finished object, which we should get right into, because da 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 da! My Franky Genser is finished! Wow, this has been the saga of my knitting life. I let you guess how many days this has been on my needles before I say the number. So for context, it has been a very long-term WIP. Now please think of a number that you would consider a very long-term knit. And I guess I will go above, because this Franky Genser has been on my needles for 1,125 days. Oops. Well, I can't explain why, but I cast this on. I got my Ravelry page here on my iPad because I wanted to have all the correct data. So I cast this on July 1st in 2022, and I think that was when this Sandnes booklet, which the Franky Genser is from, came out. It says something like 2202, so I think it's the 2nd issue of 2022. It's called Mygt till Dame. I'm not sure. Yeah, but it contains the Franky Genser, and I was really hyped when I first saw it, so I cast it on. I also got the yarn that they recommend, because I used Sandnes Kos in this jelly bean green, it's called. And actually, when you buy one of these Sandnes booklets, you have to get some kind of yarn from Sandnes, which there's been some rant in the knitting community about that. But yeah, so the Franky Genser is worked top down. It's not a standard raglan, it has these wider shoulder lines here, but then it does go into a raglan construction. You can see it here. So it doesn't have like the typical increase rates, but they were a bit different. It has some details in half-twisted rib and these, sorry, I rolled them over when I wore it, these long 1x1 twisted rib details. It was very hard for me to determine when to start the ribbing on the bottom, because I looked at a lot of photos on Ravelry by people and I mean, sometimes it looked like the ribbing started a bit too high, like directly under the armpit, and that was also weird. And then sometimes it looked a bit weird because it started too low. And yeah, I think I'm in the second group. I think it does look a bit weird because it sits a bit too low. But yeah, this sweater was a saga. So at first, I think if I remember correctly, that I cast this on and I was way off gauge or something. Something was wrong because I frogged the yoke once, but I cannot really remember why, but I think that was it. And yeah, then I also looked at a lot of photos, like I said, and I thought that sometimes it looked really wide. There are not a lot of sizes in here. I definitely knit the smallest one, and I think, yeah, it's 3 sizes. Like it's a combination always of 2, like XS, M to L, XL to 3XL. And I knit the smallest size, but even the smallest size looked huge on some people. So one modification I did was when you join under the arms, like right here, you are supposed to cast on stitches, and I cast on 10 fewer on each side than they recommended in the pattern, which I think worked out really well for the body. Like it's still roomy, but not humongous. But I regret a bit doing that for the sleeves, because especially on the stockinette part, they could be a bit bigger. I think on the ribbing part it looks fine, it flares out a bit, but on the stockinette part not so much. But maybe when I wash it again in the future, I will then, when it's still a bit wet, stretch out the sleeves at the top part here and pin it to dry. Because when I washed and blocked this, I was not in a place where I felt like doing the whole hand washing procedure, like putting it in a bucket, putting it out, drying it with a towel, letting it dry. I just didn't feel like it, and on the ball band it said that you could wash it in the machine. So that's what I did, and it worked out really well. So I washed it, like I have a fairly new washing machine, and I washed it on the wool hand wash cycle with the cold temperature. I believe that's maybe 20 degrees. Mine has just a star, so it's cool. I don't know what degree number that is. And also with 1200, no idea how you say that in English, spinning frequency? You know what I mean. And that worked out really fine. It came out a little bit damp, but that was fine. Oh, and I also stocked it while it was in the washing machine, and I think some people are afraid that when you use a high spinning frequency, that your garment will felt. But actually it was just pressed against the inside of the washing machine flat, and I guess that's okay. I mean, it stayed still, just the washing machine turned, so that's fine for the course, at least. What else can I say about this? I used 330 grams, and I knit the smallest size, like I said, and I used 4.5mm needles for everything. Like they do the rib on the same needle size as the stockinette part. Yeah, otherwise, I do have the finished object feeling, and I wore it today at work, but I'm not as excited as I normally am. Mainly I'm just relieved that it's off my WIP list, to be honest. Yeah, and I mean, last week I think I set myself the goal that I will finish it this week, and I finished it. Like I knitted to the measurements I thought were appropriate. Then I thread some barber cords through the sleeves and the body. Then I washed it once and let it dry. And then I put it on, and it was still a bit too small. I then added, I guess, 5 centimeters to each sleeve and 3 additional centimeters to the body. and then I bound off, and then I washed it again. So it has been through the washing twice, but you're doing an Italian bind off on all cuffs, and I didn't want to go through the drama of doing the Italian bind off, washing it, and finding out that it's too small. I just can't. So that's what I usually do, a little tip on the side. So yeah, I'm relieved it's done, and I think I will wear it. One note on the yarn maybe. I mean, it's Sandnes Garn Kos. It contains wool, cotton, and nylon. And I wasn't sure if it felt a bit scratchy, and at first when I put it on, like on my bare arms, I did feel it. But when I wore it for a few minutes, it kind of warmed up to me, and yeah, since then, no problems. So sensitive skin approved. Alrighty, that's the Franky Genser. Off of the needles after 1,125 days. Oh man, do I get an award now for the WIP that took the longest in the knitting community? Because I would take it. Alright, that's my only finished object, but a good one, I would say. I have 4 works in progress right now. And maybe I'll just quickly update you on the 2 that you already know. Do I have it with me? No. Like on the weekend we took a long car trip, and on the way there we were stuck in a traffic jam. So I got a lot of stuff done on my red Sophie Scarf. I finished the section where you increase. I'm now on the section where you decrease, and yeah, I don't know, it's this wide right now, so I think I don't have much more to go. I don't have it with me, but it's not that exciting. You have seen it 2 times by now. And then on my other WIP that you already know, it's the June top by Petite Knit, which I'm knitting out of Lino Mucca by Wollen Berlin, which is a 100% linen yarn. And I'm using 4mm. Yes, 4mm needles. I'm using 3 strands together because the Lino Mucca is very thin, and it suggests on the band that you should or can use it held single, held double, or held triple, which is what I'm doing. So I guess it would be also very cool, this yarn, if you wanted to do an intense smalling. It could work well. And I knitted a few centimeters on it. Well, this is weird to show this far. And yeah, so that's the update on that. Not that exciting. But about the linen yarn, I recently discovered that a German yarn store, which is called Maschenfein, they have a German podcast, and they have a lot of episodes on there, like a audio podcast, not a video podcast. And they already have a lot of episodes on there, and I don't know why I have never heard of it before. I just stumbled upon it and now I'm hooked. So if you are a German speaker, check it out, because they do have standalone episodes for summer yarns. They talk about linen, about cotton, and about linen, cotton, and silk. And it was very interesting. Like, they talked about where the yarn comes from, especially for silk, which different kinds of silk there are, and then they also recommended yarn to hold with the yarn they talked about, and also some yarn from their shop, obviously, and some patterns. So it was really good. And then I learned that if you're knitting with linen, that it will not grow a lot. I will report back on that. But also that if you wanted to soften up a bit, and if you want the stitches to look nice and even after blocking, you should let it soak in lukewarm water for 24 hours at least before washing it. So I will definitely try that out for this top because it is a 100% linen and stockinette. So the stitches should look even. Yes, so that's the update on my June top. Alright, I have two new cast-ons, which are actually both very new, like from this week. And like I said, the weather was very gloomy and I finished the Franky Genser and yeah, I didn't feel my Sophie Scarf on and I didn't want to knit on my June top, so I cast on something new. The first thing I cast on is the square neck camisole by Garn och Slikt or Helene Biber, I believe. And I made a swatch. This square neck cami is an all over ribbed top with a square neck. And I made a swatch using Shiny Yak by Knit Loop, which doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. I have a skein here. This is how it looks, and you can already see it has a very nice glow and it's really silky. And the color is called brown gray. And that's right, it's brown gray. Yeah, it's 50% yak and 50% mulberry silk. So very fancy. And I cast on the straps. This will be so awkward to show. Like, here is one. And the other one is still attached to the ball. Here is the other. Yeah, that's as far as I've come. But I'm really looking forward to knitting this. I first heard about this pattern on Handmade by Florence's channel. She made one in a very pretty blue. Yeah, I'm knitting the size S. I was between two sizes, but I chose to go with the smaller one because ribbing tends to stretch out a lot. And yeah, I'm using the recommended needle for once. Yeah, anything else? I don't think so. I'm very excited. And I hope to finish it while it's still warm. But I hope I will be more motivated to work on it when the weather gets warmer, which should be the case next week. And I mean, also, it's kind of cool that it has the interesting part, let's say, at the beginning. Like you start with the straps, then you do some kind of shaping for the front and back, and then you connect in the round. And then you have the knitting miles and miles of ribbing. And the exact opposite is my June top, which you start from the bottom up. So the interesting bit is at the end. So I hope that I can kind of do a tandem knit with those two. Like whenever I'm wanting to knit something more mindless, I will go for the June top, and more mindful, I will go for the square neck cami, and vice versa when I've reached a certain point. So that's the plan. Let's see if that works out. And then I kind of got bored of the square neck cami really fast. And at the back of my mind, I still had some leftover yarn from my No Basic sweater, which I finished recently. And then also I still had the same quality of yarn left from my champagne cardigan, and it's the La Mana Como. It's a merino yarn, and I had like equal quantities left. I think 4 balls of a white and 3.5 balls of a beige. And I looked up some patterns that I could knit with it and came across the Poppy Tea by Petite Knit, and decided to do a stripy version. So let me show you. I'm filming this in my lunch break, which is why coffee. Yeah, I have made decent progress, and it's all tangled up in the 2 skeins. But this is it. Yeah, you can kind of see. So the stripes are low contrast, but they show up more than I thought, because this is the yarn. This is called Seidengrau, and this is called Natur, I believe. and together they make these cute little stripes. Maybe the back will show it better. There we go. I decided to do a 4-row repeat, like 4 rows or rounds of white and then 4 rows or rounds of the beige. Yeah, because I thought, like at first I wanted to do really micro stripes, like 2 and 2. But then I thought 2 and 2 is always a weird or an unfortunate number if you want to do jogless stripes on the body. Yeah, so I decided to go for 4 and 4, and I'm really happy. So far I only had to like do some maths or thinking like how I will place the stripes. Because I have a bit more of the white, so I want to make the collar and hem in white, and that is why I started with the beige up here. But then I noticed when I want to connect the back panel and the 2 shoulder panels together, they should end on the same color, obviously. So I did a little think with which color I would have to start the shoulder section, like, I mean, this section here, so they will line up, but it was actually really easy. It was just counting the rows of shoulder, like counting the overall number that you will knit for the shoulder, dividing it by my repeat, and then I knew with which color I had to start. So yeah, and I think now that I am on the increasing for the sleeves already, it's just gonna be in the round, so I don't think I will have any more issues with the stripes. So that was an unfortunate incident that it worked out, because I haven't thought about if the number of stripes would work with the pattern before. So that's good. Yeah, so I'm using the Lama Nakomo. I think I will play a bit of yarn chicken on this, but like the pattern has very long sleeves, or not very long, but for a t-shirt longer than these, so I can always crop the sleeves and the hem. So let's see, and if all yeah, if I run out earlier than I think, I will just have to get some more. That's all right. What needles am I using? So I'm using 4mm needles, and I think I'm knitting a size small for this one. Yes. All right. So that's it for my works in progress. I don't have any acquisitions, but I was on the brink of buying yarn, I think 3 times this week, because some yarn shops are having sales, and I don't know, I'm just kind of feeling yarn shoppy at the moment, which I haven't for a while, so yeah. And the reason for this feeling is the following 2 plans I have. Because I bought in Denmark, I was in Denmark about a year ago. I went to a yarn shop, and yes, I remember, it was called Sommerfuglen, something with Sommer, along those lines. And I went in and wanted to buy the Handwerksgarn by Kjellholt, but it was the first time that I felt it in real life, and it is really scratchy, like especially for a person who is sensitive. No. But then I had a look around the shop because I wanted to get some Danish yarn, and I found also from Kjellholt, the Dansk Pelsult 8-2, this one, in this very pretty light grey, and it has some marling throughout, and it is a fingering weight. And I got 300 grams with the outlook that I could always make a slip over. And I wanted, like when I got this, I had a very clear vision in mind that I want to make a V-neck slip over that I can wear also over t-shirts, but obviously over long shirts. And I don't want it to have a very deep V because I don't enjoy that look. So at the back of my mind, I was always thinking, what patterns could I use? And I had a little look, and I found the, what is it called? September Slipover. It's either September or Stockholm Slipover. I will put it on the screen, a photo by Petite Knit. And it uses a fingering weight yarn held together with a mohair. And I kind of looked up mohairs. I also wrote to Isaga which color they would recommend of their silk mohair for a cool toned gray. 3S if you are curious. Because I wanted to try that out for a long time, because a lot of people say that it is fairly soft for a mohair, and maybe, just maybe, I could use that one. So yeah, sorry for that tangent, but thing is, Petite Knit uses a fingering weight and a mohair held together, but that would mean that I only need 150 grams, which would also mean that I have a lot of yarn left if I choose to do that slip over, which I don't want. But the silhouette and style of this slip over is exactly what I'm looking for, to be honest. I also found some other slip overs. One I liked from Rauma, but they knitted in a cotton yarn and it's marketed as a summer vest. So I guess that's not the best choice. And then I found another one, I will put it here, with some nice cables, which I also like. So yeah, maybe I will try that. Or I will just go rogue and do something myself. I mean, how difficult can a V-neck slip over be, right? So if you have any recommendations for a slip over that will use 300 grams of fingering weight yarn, I mean, I could always hold it double, that would be nice. Or even other recommendations you have for this yarn. I have 300 grams and I'm sensitive, so it should not be a turtleneck or something. So yeah, but it's very pretty. I'm very looking forward to working with this yarn. Alright, one more plan I had, or why I thought about buying yarn, is that I want to knit an Olympic ski jumper for Christmas. I don't know if you saw, but Handmade by Florence did a knit-along for these ski Norwegian Olympic sweaters last year. And I was kind of sad that I didn't join, but I was writing my master thesis at that time, so yeah, it was, I guess, a sensible thing not to join. But this year I have all the time to knit one of those sweaters, and I want to go for the newest one they have, which is the Trondheim 2025 Ski Championship jumper. They do have a crew neck and a zipper, and I want to be brave and do the zipper because you have to stick it, and I have never sticked anything in my life, so I'm excited to try. So as for the color, I think I want to go for a dark main color and then a white contrast color, and it has some colorful elements in. And I was thinking about going for something along those lines. I have some leftovers here that kind of match the color. So as a main color, I want to go for a dark gray, almost black, and like I said, a white. Perfect that I have a white shirt on. And then maybe some greenish contrast and maybe some bluish, like putting it into a cooler toned category. I think that would be very nice. And I also, this is why this ball looks so messy, I also swatched with these because in theory these, like the knitting for olive yarn held double, would work for the Olympic ski jumper. But oh my god, I tried swatching the colorwork motif. It was such a pain holding two strands together and doing a colorwork where in some rows you have 3 colors. No thank you! Which is why I decided I want to buy some yarn dedicated for that project. So obviously these Olympic ski jumpers are published by House of Yarn or Dale Garn in Norway, and they also produce these sweaters so you can buy them as a finished sweater. That is not what I want to do, but they also have knitting kits, and you can buy their yarn, like you can just buy their yarn. I think it's called alpaca, something with F. Not too sure. And it's a blend of alpaca wool and I guess some nylon content in there. And it has a really weird meterage. Like, I remember that 50 grams have 137 meters, which was kind of weird because it's a bit of a thinner decay, but it's not a sport. So yeah, I actually think about buying that specific yarn from the supplier. Let's see. It's not that cheap, especially because it's got nylon in. Like in Germany, one ball costs €6.50 at Hobby. I saw they carry the yarn, so not too sure about that. Maybe I will look up some other yarn, but I already had a quick look and I couldn't really find anything nice in that category. So if you have any recommendations for a yarn that is around that meterage, like 137 per 50 grams, I would be very glad. And yeah, then I will look for some colors, start swatching, and then hopefully have a Olympic ski jumper Christmas sweater. How cool would that be? So yeah, that is what's on my mind right now. I don't think I will cast on either of these in the too near future. I want to finish some stuff first. Yeah, but you have to plan ahead, right? So that's it for the knitting part, I think. Some of you, like I showed some sewing stuff in the last episode, and I wanted to show it really quick because this is a knitting podcast and knitting is my main hobby. I'm just a beginner sewist, I know nothing. But some people said that they really enjoyed seeing it and they would have liked seeing me wear it. So I finished two things. Just want to quickly round off the video here with the sewing. I finished two things. One I have with me, one I will have to insert the video. So the first thing I finished is a, gods, I don't know what this is called in English. Mousseline? Gaze? Gauze? Wow. I will have to put the translation on screen. But I made myself a little summer blouse, shirt kind of thing. I can actually quickly put it on. I feel very superior because this was not hard to do, but this was the first project where you really had to sew neatly and you could see the seams and stuff. So I made this little shirt. If I stand up, you can see that it also has a pocket. It could have gone a bit more to the center, but well, yeah, it's a bit long. Yeah, so next time I make it, I will make it shorter. It also has buttonholes, which was a very exciting moment for me. I never did a buttonhole before in sewing. Yeah, it's the perfect like throw on over t-shirt blouse. And I maybe want to make myself one in a linen fabric because I have some left over from my dress and I could squeeze one out, especially if I make it more cropped. The sleeves are also a bit too long for me. Before I forget, I used a pattern that I got from my sewing friend because she had already cut it out. And it's called the Blouse Suzanne by Stoff Lounge. So I don't think, again, sorry that this is available in any other language than German. But yeah, that's what it is. And then I made a dress, which I wore to a festive event last week. It's the rectangle gathered dress by Rosary Apparel. And it worked out well. I will put a photo here of me wearing it. It's basically a long maxi dress with a gathered bodice. and then just some straps that you tie, and it's made out of a black linen and some lining fabric. It also has pockets, which is really nice and was nice for the occasion. I feared that it would come apart because I didn't sew it the right way, but it didn't. So that's good. Yeah, I dressed it up with a bit of golden jewelry, put my hair up. Yeah, it looked kind of fancy. So if you ever need a fancier looking dress, I can recommend. The only thing that I would say is I took off, I guess, 40 centimeters of width of the rectangles. I sewed it together and then it looked ginormous. I could have fit in there 3 times. And of course you gather it, so it has to have more fabric, but it looked really weird. So I cut off, I think it was 20 centimeters, so back and front 40 centimeters, and sewed it back together, and that was the right thing to do because right now it still has a lot of fabric on it. So yeah, if you also want to make the dress, I think she says that you should add 40 centimeters or something. She does say it in her instructions to your bust circumference. Yeah, no, I thought it was too much. Maybe it was just my fabric because linen is a bit more stiff and I think she used some kind of cotton. Yeah, so for linen, maybe keep in mind that it will turn out big. All right, that's it, I guess, for my knitting and sewing. I'm glad you joined me on this cozy day. I hope that there are still some cozy days ahead of us before we get the hot summer days again. And yeah, I think I will get a lot of knitting done this weekend and I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm also really hyped on the poppy tea, I have to say. Yeah, I'm really motivated. I think my knitting mojo is finally back to full steam. So have a great day. And also, like I said, please let me know if you have any ideas for the Dansk Pelsold yarn or a V-neck slipover or anything. And if you have some suggestions for the yarn for the Olympic sweater. And yeah, oh, I would also, I know podcasters always say this, but I would love to know what you are working on while you're watching it. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!